Hello all, myself Dr. M. Laxmidevi, Assistant Professor in the Department of CSE, Cybersecurity, Data Science and AIDS, working at VNR VJIET. So in this video lecture, we'll discuss some of the concepts of the course named Programming for Problem Solving. And the topic of this today's video lecture is for loop, while loop and do while loop in C programming language. So first of all, let us see what is the importance. So in this video lecture, we will be covering the important topics like what is the use of loop control statements, why we need to use this loop control statements, and what are the different types of looping statements or loop control statements, and then with the help of some examples also. So here generally the basic concept of loop control statements is, so these are used in to repeat a block of code until the specified condition is met here. So here the block of code indicates the set of statements which are to be executed. Suppose we want to do a certain task repeatedly, then for that we can use the concept of loops. So that is what, coming to the types of loops, we have two types of loops, entry controlled and exit controlled loops. So based upon when the condition will be checked, so based on that we have two types of loops, entry controlled and exit control loop. So first one is entry control, the next one is exit control loop. In entry control loop, the test condition is checked before entering the main body of the loop. So examples of entry control loops are for loop and while loop. Next, coming to exit control loop. So here the test condition is evaluated at the end of the loop body. So here the loop body or the statements will be executed at least once, irrespective of whether the condition is true or false. So for this example is do while loop. Do while loop is an exit control statement. So now we'll see the syntax of each one in detail. So first we'll see the syntax of for loop. So here the syntax of for loop is in this way. So this is how we can write the for loop in the program. So for initialization, then semicolon. So after that the condition, after that the updation expression. So basically in any loops we have three expressions: initialization, conditional expression, and the last one is update expression. So this initialization expression, it states from where the loop has to be started. Then condition is, it evaluates till what is the condition to be true, so that the set of statements which are there in this for loop, they will be executed. Then update expression is, so the increment, it can be either increment or decrement. So we implement it with the help of increment or decrement operator in C programming language. So for example, so let us understand it with the help of one example. So for example, if you want to print the numbers from 1 to 10. So if you want to print the numbers from 1 to 10, so for this you can write a loop here. So for example, initially we initialize it, a variable is taken, and that we initialize it to 1 because the loop has to be started from. So here in this way you can write this: for I is equal to 1. So first we need to declare this for int I is equal to 1, and then condition I less than or equal to 10, and then after that I plus plus. So inside this we can write the print statement. So printf %d is the format specifier, and then we write the escape sequence. So based upon how the output is to be presented on the screen, so we can write the escape sequence, so then followed by the variable name. So this is how, so this is a simple example of for loop. So first one is the initialization, from where the loop has to be started. The next one is the conditional expression, and the last one is the update expression. So in order to print the numbers from 1 to 10, we can write the printf statement inside the for loop. So I will be started from 1, then after that, so this statement is executed first. So after that this condition is checked. Since 1 is less than 10, so it is true, it evaluates to true. So this is a Boolean expression. The condition is nothing but a Boolean expression which is evaluated to true or false. If it evaluates to true, then the statements which are there inside the for loop, they will be executed. So I is 1 is less than 10, so it will enter this block of code, and then this printf statement will be executed. So I value is 1, 1 will be printed. Next, in the next iteration, so after that I value is incremented by 1. Initially I is 1, since we have initialized to 1. In the next iteration 1, in the next iteration I value is incremented by 1, so I value becomes 2. Next again the condition is checked. So 2 is less than 10, so therefore this evaluates to true. So therefore it will enter this for loop and this printf statement will be executed and 2 will be printed. So output will look like in this way. So all the numbers from 1 to 10 will be executed. So 1, 2, 3 and so on up to 10 will be executed here. So after that, when I value is incremented by 1 and when I is equal to 11, so when I is equal to 11, so for that case, this condition becomes false because 11 is greater than 10, so it becomes false and no more this printf statement is executed. So this is the execution of the for loop. Now let us understand it. So this is the flowchart for this for loop. So initially we need to do the initialization. So that is done, as you can see here in this expression, I is equal to 1. So initialization expression, after that condition. So example is here, this is the condition expression. So output of this is either it is evaluated to true or false. So if it is true, the statements which are there inside the for loop, so those will be executed. If it is false, the control is transferred to outside the loop. If it is true, statements are executed, then update expression will be carried on and then again the condition is checked. So this loop will be repeated until the condition is true, and once the condition is false, control is transferred to outside the loop. So similarly, next type of loop we have while loop. So this is the while loop. So we'll see the syntax. First we'll see the flowchart here. So here the first thing you need to do is initialization. So after that the condition is checked. So based upon the condition, if it is evaluated to true, the code which is there inside the body of the while loop, so that is executed and then update expression is carried on. Again the condition is checked and then this loop will be repeated. Once the condition becomes false, so it control is transferred to outside the loop. Now let us see the syntax of while loop. So let us see the syntax of while loop and then we'll go for do while loop. So this is the syntax of while loop. So while is a keyword which we need to use and then inside this we need to write the condition, and inside these brackets we need to write the statements. So here statements can be a single line statement or number of statements which are to be executed, and here itself we write the update expression also. So this is the syntax of while loop followed by condition, and inside the statements we write the update expression. And initialization we do it before the starting of the while loop itself. So same program we can write with the help of while loop to print the numbers from 1 to 10. So in order to print the numbers from 1 to 10, so this is the implementation while. So initially we need to assign I is equal to 1, then I less than or equal to 10. Inside this we need to write the printf statement, %d, then escape sequence followed by the variable name, and update expression will be written here itself and then followed by the end of the while loop. So first this expression will be carried out, then after that the condition is checked. Since 1 is less than 10, so therefore it will enter this loop and this printf statement will be executed. Value of I will be printed. So that is 1 will be printed. Next iteration, then here itself I value is incremented by 1 and then I becomes 2 now. So 2 is less than 10, so therefore it will enter this loop and then this printf statement will be executed. So in this way 1, 2, 3 and so on up to 10 will be printed. Once it becomes 11, it will control is transferred out of the loop. No longer this printf statement will be executed here. So this is about while loop. Next, coming to do while loop. So the two types of loops, for loop and while loop, these are entry control loop. So as we have seen, for loop also checks the condition before itself. So before entering the loop, body of the loop, the condition is checked. So but do while loop is little bit different here. So do while loop is, it is exit controlled loop. So condition is checked once the statements are executed. So do while loop is similar to a while loop, but the only difference is the in do while loop the test condition is tested at the end of the body. So in do while loop the loop body will execute at least once irrespective of the test condition. So same program we can execute it. We'll write the syntax for do while loop. So this is the syntax. Do is a keyword which is used to, which we write, and then inside this we write the statements, then semicolon, and this one is a while followed by the condition. So same program we can write it with the help of do while loop, do, and then inside this we write the printf statement %d and then I. So this is a program where we write inst and then while I less than or equal to 10. So this is how we can implement the program to print the numbers from 1 to 10 using do while loop. So first it will enter this first. So initially we have to write the initialization also. We have to do initialization I is equal to 1. So before entering the do while loop itself. So first I value is equal to 1. Then it will enter this do loop. So I value is printed. So it will become 1. Then after that I value is incremented by 1. So it becomes 2. 2 is less than 10. So therefore again it will enter this loop. So therefore this is called as exit control loop. So first the statements are executed and then after that the condition is checked. So this is how a do while loop is executed. So this is the flowchart for a do while loop. First the statements are executed. First we need to do the initialization. Then the statements which are there inside the do loop, they are executed. So after that the condition is checked. If the condition is true, then again the statements, it will enter the body of the do loop. Once the condition becomes false, it will come out of the do while loop. So this is the difference between for loop, while loop and do while loop. So as we have seen, so till now we have seen what is the necessity of using loops and the different types of loops. So these different types of loops are categorized into two types mainly: entry controlled and exit control loops. So the for loop and while loop are entry control loops, whereas do while loop is exit control loop. So coming to the difference, so let us see the difference between for loop, while loop and do while loop. As you can see here, so for loop is entry control loop because the condition is evaluated at the beginning itself. Similarly, while loop is also entry control loop, whereas do while loop is exit control loop. So here for loop it is used when the number of iterations are known. So when we know how many iterations the loop will run or how many times we need to execute the set of statements, then we can use the for loop. But if we don't know exact number of iterations, how many it is used when number of iterations are unknown. And this is also used when we don't know the number of iterations before itself. So therefore, when we actually know how many times a loop is to be repeated, then in that case we can use for loop. Whereas for the other, if we don't know how many times the loop is going to run, in that case we can use while loop and do while loop. So here the other difference is, so control will not enter into the loop if the condition is false. So that is what, because of, since it is entry control loop, so control will not enter into the loop if the condition is false. So here the control will not enter into the loop if the condition is false. So here also while loop is also entry control loop. So here do while loop is exit control loop. So therefore body of the loop will be executed at least once before checking the condition. So these are the major differences between for loop, while loop and do while loop. Next we can use nested loop also. So nested loop is a loop inside another loop. It is not a type of loop, but it is a combination of the different types of loops which we have seen till now. So nested loop is one loop inside another loop. A loop inside another loop is called a nested loop. So the depth of nested loop depends upon the complexity of the problem. So we can have any number of nested loops as required. So we can have a for loop inside a while loop, or we can have we can have for loop inside another for loop. So this is also a nested loop. So we can have while loop inside another while loop. So this is also a nested loop. So in this way, we can have any combinations of the three different types of loops which we have seen, that is for loop, while loop, and do while loop. So these are the different types of nested loops: nested while loop, nested for loop, and nested do while loop. So there can be mixed type of nested loop, a for loop inside a while loop, or a while loop inside a do while loop. So thus till now we have seen three types of loops: for loop, while loop, and do while loop. So generally out of this, these two are entry control loops. So whereas the third one is exit control loop. So generally the basic idea of using loops is, so why we use loops or what are the advantages of loops are, we can avoid repetition of the statements. And then because of this, the length of the program will be reduced. And thus complexity of the program is also reduced. So these are the different advantages of using loops in the program. So when we want to repeat a certain set of statements again and again, then we can implement that with the help or with the concept of loops here. So by avoiding the same set of statements, by avoiding the repetition of the same set of statements, we can reduce the length of the program, and also we can reduce the complexity of the program. So these are the different advantages of loops. So thus we have seen the basic concepts of loops in this video lecture. Thank you.